There was big news this week as Wizards of the Coast updated the list of banned cards in various formats by throwing a few new offenders behind bars and releasing one lucky card from prison. These changes will affect the Modern and Pioneer formats in addition to Pauper. Let's dive into the new bans and unbanning and see how they may change their respective formats. Starting with a big shift in Modern, one of the elemental cycle from Modern Horizons 2, Fury, was banned. During its time in Modern, Fury went from seeing only a small amount of play as a single copy in the Omnath Money Pile decks that dominated the format earlier this year, to 4 copies in the current best deck in the format, Rakdos Scam. Fury is a card that, by its very existence, keeps entire swaths of 1 toughness creatures from being played, as it can easily be evoked to come down on turn 1 or 2 and wipe out any small bodies that your opponents may play. 1 casting cost creatures that ramp your mana like Llanowar Elves and Elvish Mystic or Noble Hierarch, which are an integral part of what makes green-based decks powerful, were unplayable with Fury running around. For the last few months, Delighted Halfling was the only 1-mana ramp card that green decks could feasibly play, since at least it has 2 toughness, but its drawback of only making colorless mana unless casting a legendary spell made it less than ideal. The biggest winner of the Fury ban is clearly the Yawgmoth deck, which can now run better 1-mana ramp creatures, giving them a big boost. Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, was another key creature for the small, white creature decks that was embarrassed by Fury, and the red elemental's presence in the metagame made it pointless to try and get these small, white-based creature decks to a place where they were capable of putting up solid tournament results. Perhaps now there's room in the format for a low-to-the-ground creature-based aggro deck to pop back up. While the small creature decks celebrate the departure of Fury, the decks that are hurt by this the most are the Rakdos Scam deck, which is widely considered to be the best deck in the Modern format, in addition to the 4-color Omnath Elemental decks, another pillar of the Modern format. In Rakdos Scam, Fury was not only used to clean up an early creature rush from your opponent, but could also be scammed into remaining in play via cards like Undying Evil and Not Dead After All, allowing the deck to slam the door shut on the game very early. This broken interaction is one of the factors which allowed Rakdos Scam to remain the top dog in Modern for months now, but that play pattern has been seriously impacted by removing one of the 2 powerful Evoke Elementals that the deck was able to run. Rakdos may drop red altogether after the Fury ban in order to embrace another color, like white for example, to get access to better or more flicker effects like Ephemerate in order to abuse their remaining Evoke Elementals, but at a significant cost. Will losing Ragavan Nimble Pilferer be worth it? Only time will tell. The Omnath decks have many other board control options to turn to since they can reach into almost any color to find answers, so while losing Fury did cost them a powerful tool, they should be able to find another impactful piece to replace it. Wrenn and 6 still does good work managing 1 toughness creatures, for example. However, the 4-color Omnath decks took a much larger hit with the additional ban of Up the Beanstalk. No longer does this deck have access to a cheap, self-replacing card draw engine that combines so beautifully with the Evoke Elementals and Leyline Binding, as well as being cascaded into with Shardless Agent. WotC said it best when they wrote, "It is particularly telling when players have concluded that cascading into Up the Beanstalk is more advantageous than the 0-mana options like Crashing Footfalls and Living End." However, once again, the Omnath decks won't be too fazed by this, as there are many powerful sources of card advantage for them to fall back on, like the One Ring. Now on to Pioneer, where the latest hot deck built around abusing the Discover mechanic saw its key combo card, Geological Appraiser, get the ban, just as most of the community expected. The play pattern of the deck, which is essentially just make a treasure token on turn 2, then cast 1-card combo Geological Appraiser on turn 3, was too much for opposing decks to deal with and had to go. The second card to be banned in Pioneer was Karn the Great Creator, which some people thought was strange timing, especially because the mono-green devotion deck that was a pillar of the Pioneer metagame for so long has been relatively absent of late. However, Karn the Great Creator has been the best planeswalker in Pioneer and even Modern for a long time now. Every time a new artifact gets printed, which is in every single set, it's a potential new tool for the Karn Toolbox sideboard, meaning Karn is simply a ticking time bomb waiting for just the right card to be printed for the colorless planeswalker to break in half. That means it's better to see Karn go now before an artifact slips through that forces WotC to have to emergency ban him. What does that mean for mono-green devotion? Despite Nykthos Shrine to Nyx being an extremely potent mana production engine, losing Karn means losing the deck's access to tools it needs to fight the other top decks, as being a single color doesn't give the deck many options. Will the big green mana decks find a new way forward, or was the banning of their toolbox engine too much for them to survive at the top of the Pioneer meta? We'll have to wait and see. While one colorless card was shown the door in Pioneer, another powerful colorless card was allowed back in. Smuggler's Copter. A card that had to be banned in Standard only a few short months after it was printed, then banned again in Pioneer when that format was initially being transformed into what it looks like today. Smuggler's Copter is a very potent piece of cardboard. Being colorless and only 2 mana means it can slot into literally any deck, regardless of its colored mana costs or mana curve. The fact that it's also immune to sorcery speed removal and is evasive means it can consistently and safely help you filter your draws, which is something that every deck, regardless of archetype, can use to good effect. With a crew cost of only 1 mana, it's a trivial matter to fire it up, and if your deck employs graveyard-based strategies, it also enables those at no extra cost. All these factors mean Smuggler's Copter is often played as a 4-of in almost every deck that can use it, of which there are many. The most obvious homes for this card are in decks that want to apply early pressure and have cards they either don't mind discarding or actively want to get into the graveyard, like the Rakdos Sacrifice decks built around the Cat Oven combo of Cauldron Familiar and Witch's Oven, or the Izzet Phoenix decks that already play cards like Ledger Shredder to do exactly that. Decks like Abzan Greasefang may also pick up the Copter, as it enables their combo as well as their fair plan B of simply killing the opponent with creatures and vehicles. Aggro decks like Boros Convoke may even want it, since it fits nicely into their curve, is an evasive source of damage, and can be crewed by any of the cheap creatures they play. Will Smuggler's Copter remain free to plague Pioneer, or will it prove to be too powerful and be locked back up again? Stay tuned to Pioneer to find out. The last card called out in the announcement this week was from the Pauper format, with Monastery Swiftspear getting banned. We aren't going to go into too much detail on this ban, since Gavin Verhey did such a great job going over their reasoning surrounding this ban in his article on the main Wizards of the Coast page. If you'd like to read more about it, we have linked the article in the comments below. That's all we have for you today, but stay tuned next week as we examine the impact that these changes have on their various formats and their related metagames.